Hey there, welcome back. Today I've lined up some brand new stories for you to sit back and enjoy. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. And let's get started with the first story right away.
Story 1. I read a message from an anonymous Instagram account telling me my wife was seen holding hands with her male coworker after a work function, and my wife says she was too drunk to remember if anything happened, but that the messenger is her jealous female coworker trying to stir trouble. Posted by you/thrower holding hands. My wife, 36F, and I, 40M, have been together 5 years and got married last year. We definitely have our ups and downs, but we're generally happy. On Friday, she went out with people from her work for Christmas drinks and arrived home around midnight absolutely hammered. She just said she'd had a good time and went straight to bed. Yesterday, I got a message on Instagram from an anonymous account claiming to be one of her colleagues, saying she'd been flirting all night with one of the guys from the office, 44M, and they'd left together at about 9 to walk to the train station. The colleague had a couple more drinks, then went to the station herself, and says she saw my wife walking hand in hand with the guy through the station at about 10:45. They didn't see her. Last night, I showed her the message and asked her for an explanation. She claims she was so drunk she doesn't remember anything that happened after about 8 p.m. I asked if she went somewhere with the guy after they left the group, and she checked the location history on her phone, which confirmed that they had gone to a bar near the station for about an hour. They arrived at the station at 10:40. She gave me her phone and insisted I check it, and there were no suspicious messages or anything. As far as I could tell, she doesn't have the guy's number in her phone, and they're not following each other on Instagram or friends on Facebook. I asked if she was flirting with him, and she admitted that she was talking mostly to him all night, but that's just because he's the only person in her office she has anything in common with, and that they're just friends, and it wasn't flirting. She's mentioned this guy to me before and said how much they have in common. I asked if they were holding hands, and she said she doesn't remember, but she doesn't think so. She claims to know who sent me the message and says it's a woman in the office who hates her, although she doesn't know why. Today, she's been in a terrible mood, and we've not really spoken. So that's where we are. I'm not sure what to do. Is this as big a red flag as it seems to be? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. There are a collection of issues here, but the terrible mood today seems like a big one. The information you received is largely correct. It looks a bit fishy, and instead of offering reassurance, she is in retaliation mode, no doubt focusing on her office rival. She should be apologizing and doing what she can to defuse the situation. Getting so drunk you can't recall and focusing on a particular man, then going off privately with him, I wonder how she would feel if this were something you had done. Tell her to lose the attitude and figure out how she plans to sort this out. Commenter 2. So she was too drunk to remember anything for 4 hours? Yet was still capable of getting herself home? If nothing had happened, I feel like her answer would have been what? No? No, I didn't do that. Instead, it was well, I don't remember, yes, I was talking to him a lot, yes, we went to a bar alone, but nothing happened. I don't remember anything, but I definitely remember that nothing happened, somehow. That woman's out to get me, now I'm going to sulk. And, oof. That's not the answer you want to hear. Update 9 days later. A few people requested an update to my last post, and a lot has happened in the last week, so here it is. I'll post any further updates on my profile. TDLR. My wife, Sam, got drunk on a work night out and was seen holding hands with a guy from her office. Sam came home from work on Monday and casually said that she'd spoken with the guy, Tom, and he'd confirmed that they hadn't held hands. They'd just been walking arm in arm because she was drunk and wearing heels. I asked why her colleague, Helen, would make an Instagram account, track me down, and message me saying they held hands if it wasn't true. She said Helen is basically in love with Tom and made a pass at him just after his divorce, but he rejected her. I asked why Helen would feel threatened by her. She said because she and Tom are friends, and Helen's a crazy jealous BTCH, as evidenced by the Instagram message. I asked why she went for a drink with just Tom. She said that, according to Tom, they walked past this bar with an amazing live band playing, so they stopped in for a drink. Her only regret was doing too many shots too early and getting crap-faced. The next day she went shopping after work and came home with a new dress. I asked what the occasion was, and she said her work Christmas party. Last week was just drinks with people from her office. The company Christmas party is on Friday. Apparently, she'd mentioned this. I hardly slept that night. The next day I decided to reply to the Instagram message to get some more info. I asked, do you think anything's going on with them? Helen, I assume, quickly replied with a long message saying that they flirt at work and everyone's noticed. Apparently, Sam was going to be let go, but Tom put in a good word, so she kept her job. Tom protects her in the office and will constantly defend her. She also said that Sam bitches about me to the whole office, and it's clear we don't have a happy marriage. I asked if she was going to the Christmas party, and she said she was. She said she'd update me if anything happened. Sam finished work early on Friday, so she had time to get ready. She looked amazing, and I really didn't want her to go, but I felt like I couldn't say anything. I got an Instagram message about midnight saying that Sam and Tom hadn't interacted at the party, but that people from the office had decided to leave and go to a different bar. They all left just before 11 and were at the new bar by 10 past. Sam and Tom turned up just before midnight. Sam arrived home about 2 a.m., not quite as drunk as last time, and went straight to sleep. I pretended to be fast asleep. I looked at the location history on her phone. After leaving the venue, she'd taken a 3-mile detour to a residential street, stayed for half an hour, then gone to the bar. I sent the address to Helen. She didn't reply until the next morning, when she said it was Tom's house. When Sam woke up, I just asked her straight out if she'd cheated on me with Tom last night. She angrily denied it. I told her that I knew she'd been to Tom's house. She accused me of spying on her, called me controlling, and said she was going to stay with her sister. I demanded an explanation, and she said she went to his house so they could smoke a joint before heading to the bar. Then she stormed out. She wouldn't reply to my messages or answer my calls all day Sunday. I called her sister, who said she hadn't seen her, but she texted me later that she'd spoken to Sam and she was okay. Sam came home yesterday morning. I asked where she'd been, and she just said she couldn't do this anymore and wants a divorce. She went to start packing some clothes while I tried to get her to talk to me. I asked if she was leaving me for Tom. She once again denied anything inappropriate had happened between them, but said my jealousy was the final straw. It's clear I don't trust her, I'm controlling, I take her for granted. She's deeply unhappy. Has been for a while. So she's gone. It looks like I'll be spending my first Christmas alone. I have no idea if she was telling the truth or if it was an affair. Weirdly, I'm not feeling too bad today, so maybe this is for the best. /relevant comments. Commenter. She did the hard part for you. She is 100% full of crap. Best of luck to you this holiday season. Commenter 2. I understand the possibility of a jealous coworker making up a story to get someone in trouble, like she claimed. But when your spouse brings that to your attention, you'd think it would be smart to maybe not go to the guy's house alone within a week. She knew the relationship was coming to an end and didn't care. Second update 20 days later. Once she was gone, Sam blocked me on all her social media and refused to return my messages or answer my calls. I ended up traveling to the other side of the country to spend Christmas with my parents. On Christmas Eve, Sam came home and took more of her stuff. I watched her on our security cameras. I tried phoning her, but she ignored my calls. Christmas wasn't great, and my parents were both shocked and in denial about what had happened. They had no idea we were having issues and insisted Sam would come to her senses and come home. Eventually, I just said she'd met someone else. I returned home on the 27th. I've been getting sporadic updates from Sam's sister, just letting me know she's alright but without any details. Before all this happened, we'd made plans to spend New Year's Eve at Sam's favorite bar in the city. I went on my own, but she didn't show up. On Tuesday night, I received an Instagram message from Helen saying that Sam and Tom had arrived at work together in Tom's car. I didn't bother replying. On Wednesday night, she sent another message saying Sam was poisoning the office against her, and that Tom was pushing upper management to transfer her to another office or get rid of her. She begged me to do something. I texted Sam and said we needed to talk, but she didn't reply. So the next day, I called her work switchboard, gave a fake name, and got put through. I could tell she wasn't happy to hear my voice, but she agreed to meet up after work at a local pub and talk. I got there early, and she arrived 25 minutes late. She apologized for ignoring my calls and said she still cares about me and wants to end things on good terms. I said, just tell me the truth. She promised that she wasn't having an affair with Tom, and they were just friends. She admitted that they talk a lot in the office but insisted it wasn't an emotional affair. She understands why I was suspicious after the Instagram message, but said I should have accepted her denial and trusted her. She has a lot of male friends, but she felt like she couldn't hang out with them because I'd get jealous. I pointed out that I've never told her not to hang out with anyone, but she said I'd be in a mood whenever she'd hang out with a guy friend. She feels like we only got married to try and fix a relationship that was already broken. Our conversations have devolved into small talk, and we've drifted apart. I said I'd heard that she and Tom arrived at work together. Sam said she went to Tom's after I accused her of cheating and knew it was over between us. They spent the weekend together and agreed that they'd make a better couple than we did. She needed me to know that nothing happened between them until after she'd told me she wanted a divorce. And now they were together. And she wanted me to hear it from her before I saw it on social media. Tom was waiting outside for her in the car. All I could do was stand up and walk out. Sam texted me saying she knew I was upset, but not to do anything stupid. I blocked her number. I'm not gonna lie, it was a rough night. The next day I was just numb. Didn't really do much. Over the weekend, I dug out our marriage certificate so I can start divorce proceedings. I've no idea what to say to Helen, so I haven't replied. I think the plan now is to try and find a new job closer to my hometown. I moved across the country to live with Sam, and I've never really felt settled here. I also don't want to run into her and Tom around town. Luckily, we rent. This will probably be my last update unless something miraculous happens, so thanks for reading. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. She's lying her bum off. She could have gone to anyone's house to spend the night, but she went to his. She didn't decide that they'd make a better couple until after you called her out on it. She was cheating the entire time, got caught, and lied. It was emotional and physical. Now she can blame you for everything. It's all your fault because you're insecure and didn't trust her. Complete BS. Commenter 2. Hey man, I've been through similar, and I have known a bunch of people who have as well. Let me tell you that your experience is very typical for someone on the receiving end of a cheating spouse. It will drive you crazy because you will never know the full truth, but your wife was almost certainly having an affair for a while with this guy. Very typical behavior for cheating spouses is to shift blame off themselves to justify their affair, i.e. blocking you everywhere, acting like your controlling behavior drove her to this guy, minimizing your entire relationship, trashing you to anyone who will listen, etc. They will also almost never tell you the truth or admit to the affair, no matter the evidence. They will continue to lie, excuse, and gaslight. Be glad this happened now rather than after wasting more years of your life with this person. They are gone from your life and have written you off. They have told everyone they can think of that you are awful in an effort to protect themselves if accusations of their infidelity come around. Move on, minimize contact, and come to terms with the fact that you aren't going to have any further honest communication with your ex. Get therapy. Life goes on. Third update 4 months later. My soon-to-be ex-wife is pregnant and has suggested to her friend that it's mine. The only way this is possible is if she's had our final frozen embryo implanted without my permission. If that's what she's done, then either the IVF clinic haven't asked for my sign-off, or she's somehow convinced them that I've granted permission. When I left our shared house in January, I couldn't find my passport, so it's likely she has it. I'm waiting for a call back from the clinic, but I'm freaking out and want to get an idea of the potential consequences. Could she get sent to prison? What will happen to the clinic? What happens when the baby arrives, considering the circumstances? We're in England. Thanks. Edit. I've finally spoken to the clinic manager, and it seems this is all down to my own stupidity. When our last embryo didn't take, we signed all the paperwork a few weeks later to do the final transfer. My wife then developed some hormonal issues, so we paused the process until she could get it sorted out. Then, for various reasons, we decided not to proceed with the transfer, which she told the clinic. Apparently, they just paused the process for up to 3 years in order to protect our deposit, and the consent forms remained valid. My wife had the transfer 6 weeks ago. Fourth update 4 months later. My ex-wife is pregnant with our first child, due on Christmas Eve. There's more detail in my profile, but essentially we broke up last Christmas, and I moved back in with my parents 200+ miles away. She started a relationship with a coworker, which caused so much drama at her work that in February she reached a mutual agreement to immediately resign in exchange for 6 months' salary. The relationship ended, and she used the settlement money to restart the IVF process we'd paused years earlier. When I found out she was pregnant, I contacted the IVF clinic, who explained that the contracts we'd signed at the start of the process were still valid, and they hadn't done anything wrong. I disagreed, and thanks to the advice and recommendations of our legal advice UK, I hired solicitors specializing in clinical negligence and contract law. They managed to negotiate a settlement with the clinic in lieu of legal action. My ex and I ended up with about £80,000 each after fees. Plus, the clinic updated their processes to require that consent be reconfirmed by both parties before any embryo transfer takes place. For the last 4 months, I've been in regular contact with my ex, discussing settlement negotiations and traveling down south for scans. When I asked why she did it, she just said that she knew this was her last chance to have a baby, and when she came into some money, she took it as a sign that she should go ahead with the embryo transfer before I remembered to withdraw consent. She's since been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which in her mind has absolved her of any responsibility for her actions. She's desperate for us to get back together and raise our son as a family. I'm not interested in being a couple, but I obviously don't want to be 200 miles away from my son. I've got a new job, so I really didn't want to move back down to Hampshire. However, she was willing to move up to Yorkshire as long as we lived together, so we agreed to spend the settlement money on a house in my hometown. I picked up the keys last week, and I've been furnishing and decorating in preparation for us moving in next week. My ex has no friends or family around here and no job. Us living together is going to be super awkward, but once the baby comes, I'm hoping we can get into a co-parenting routine. The new house has 3 bedrooms, so we'll have one each and one for our son. We've agreed not to see other people for at least 3 years, her request. What's the best way to navigate this situation? We're both very excited to be parents, and I hope I'm making the best of a crappy situation, but it's obviously fraught with potential pitfalls. I don't see us rekindling a romantic relationship. In an ideal world, we'll live together for a few years, then sell the house, by which point she'll be settled here, and we can live close to each other and co-parent our son. I hope I'm not being unbelievably naive and making a huge mistake. My parents are excited to be grandparents, but they're not keen on the idea of us living together. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. You are being unbelievably naive and making a huge mistake. Apparently, you have also lost your mind. Commenter 2. Why did she receive any money from a settlement against the clinic, when she mindfully and knowingly used the clinic? Ops response. My solicitor added her to the complaint. Their argument was that she shouldn't have been allowed to go ahead with the procedure without my consent, and that, because the clinic didn't seek that consent, we've both been harmed, as we'll be jointly responsible for a baby as a result of the illegal procedure. Not sure how that would play in court, but the clinic were very keen to settle. Fifth update 3 months later. To say my last post got a negative response would be an understatement. It was a strange feeling reading all the replies saying what a mistake I was making after putting in so much thought and spending lots of time and effort to get where I was. Someone sent me a link to a TikTok of my previous posts. Hearing the worst time of my life being read out loud really affected me and brought out a lot of feelings of guilt and shame. It made me realize that I hadn't even begun to process what happened last Christmas, or why, and I contacted a therapist the next day. Sam moved in the day before my first appointment. It was awkward, but she was busy organizing her new room, so I just left her to it. That night we ordered pizza and watched a movie. It was nice. I met the therapist the next day and explained the situation. He thought the whole thing was a bad idea, but as we were now living together, he agreed to help us navigate things as smoothly as possible. He thought couples therapy would be the best option. Sam and I have seen him every week since then and gone through our entire relationship. After 4 miscarriages, the last 2 at 12+ weeks, absolutely wrecked Sam's mental health, I started cooling on the idea of continuing to try for a child. Instead of talking to Sam, she so desperately wanted to be a mom I thought it would break her, I just pulled away from her. Of course she noticed and blamed herself and began spiraling. Couple this with undiagnosed bipolar disorder and the hormone issues which resulted from the IVF, and it was a recipe for disaster. Sam thought, possibly correctly, that I wanted out of the relationship but was too cowardly to come out and say it. So I just checked out and waited for her to get sick of me. The whole Tom situation was the straw that broke the camel's back, and she gave up fighting for our marriage and let me get out guilt-free. In therapy I've learned to accept my responsibility for the breakup of our marriage. I wasn't a good husband towards the end, and it's a miracle Sam stuck around as long as she did. The time apart made me realize how much I still love her. We've agreed to try and embrace what's happened and be thankful it brought us to where we are now. Hopefully we've both learned lessons that will make our relationship stronger. I know I have. So we're now back living as a couple. I canceled the divorce, which was taking ages as Sam refused to engage with it. Our son was born on December 11th, 2 weeks earlier than expected, and he's absolutely perfect. I'm holding him as I write this. I know a lot of people who read my previous posts will be disappointed with how I've handled this, but at the end of the day we've only got one chance at life, and I honestly can't think of a better way to spend mine. Thanks for all your advice over the past year, and Merry Christmas. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Oh, poor guy. You let yourself be manipulated into taking her back. This was why people told you moving in together was a bad idea. Didn't it ever occur to you that her getting pregnant with your child without your consent is another manipulation tactic? Then this sob story. You fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Ops response. Yes, that did occur to me, but bear in mind we've been trying for a child for 3 years. 2 cycles of IVF and 4 embryo transfers resulted in miscarriage. The only reason we didn't go for the 5th transfer was the toll it was taking on Sam's mental and physical health. She truly believed this was her last chance at having a baby and that I was going to withdraw consent. To me, that's forgivable, but of course, I understand where you're coming from. Commenter 2. Man, don't rug sweep the Tom situation. Did Helen lose her job because of them? Ops response. No, Sam lost her job and Helen stayed. Tom didn't step in to save Sam, which caused a huge argument and led to them breaking up. Tom moved to a new company a few months later. 6th update 5 months later. My wife gave birth to our son in December. She suffers from untreated bipolar disorder, and after Christmas, she developed severe PPD. We agreed that she'd go and stay with her mum for a week, as she was spiraling and needed a break. She never came back, and we're no longer in direct contact. Our last conversation was over a month ago, and it didn't go well. She apparently has no interest in being in our son's life or even getting updates on him. As far as I know, she's still living with her mum, 200 plus miles away. I've been offered a secondment at my company's Swedish office covering maternity leave for a year. I want to take it, but I don't want to tell my wife, as she would likely try to throw a spanner in the works. I have my son's passport and original birth certificate. Can I just go without telling her? We also own a house together, which I'd like to rent out while I'm away. If she turns up out of the blue and finds someone else living here, could she do anything? There's no mortgage, and all the bills are in my name, but she's on the deeds. To be clear, if she ever decides to unblock me and wants to see our son, then of course we'd come back. I'm not looking to take him away from her forever, but I think this would be good for us. 7th update 1 year later. It's been almost 2 years since my original post, written in a panic after I received an anonymous Instagram message saying my wife had been seen holding hands with another man. It's been a crazy couple of years, which I've documented on this random Reddit profile, mainly due to the lack of people in my real life to discuss this with. This will be my last post on this account. I want to thank everyone who gave me advice over the years, even when it was obvious I wasn't going to listen to it. I still get messages asking for updates, so here's the final one. There's no point going into all the gory details, but needless to say, most of you are right that Sam and I getting back together would be a disaster. We had a good couple of months with a new baby and a new house, but things started going downhill fast in the new year, and Sam's mental health fell off a cliff once I went back to work. She ended up going to stay with her mum for a week and never came back. We had a big argument on FaceTime, and then she stopped all contact and blocked me everywhere. Luckily, my parents are retired and stepped in to watch the baby while I was at work. I soon started working from home, which helped. A few months after Sam left, my boss asked if I'd be interested in a secondment to our company's Swedish office to cover maternity leave for a year. As Sam was refusing to speak to me, I was just going to accept the job and move to Sweden without telling her. Thankfully, Reddit gave me a lot of good advice about what a bad idea that would be. I reached out to Sam's uncle on Facebook, and he gave me her mum's number. She was pleased to hear from me and filled me in on just how bad Sam's mental health had become, culminating in a manic episode that led to her spending 2 weeks at an inpatient facility. I explained my side of the story, and a few weeks later she'd managed to convince Sam to meet with me, so I drove down with our son. It was the first time Sam had seen either of us in about 4 months, and for the first time since we got together, I didn't feel any love for her. I didn't feel anything except resentment. Not even pity, and she was acting as pitiful as possible. Her refusal to interact with our son made my blood boil. But I put all that to one side, and we finally had a conversation. I won't go into too much detail, but Sam is now on medication, which is making a big difference. She doesn't feel ready to be a mother and doesn't know if she ever will. Her behavior over the past few years has been down to her mental health. She feels like she needs to travel in order to fully recover. We agreed that I'd take primary custody of our son and move to Sweden with him for at least a year. Sam would sign over her half of the house for £25,000 and no child support payments. We'd proceed with the divorce. I'd set aside an hour each week for Sam to FaceTime our son. As soon as I got back home, I hired a solicitor to get the ball rolling on all the paperwork. Sam signed the child arrangements order, making me the resident parent, and signed over her half of the house. My parents lent me the £25,000. I put the house up for rent and took the job in Sweden. My son and I moved to Gothenburg over a month ago. So far I'm absolutely loving it. Everyone in the office is nice. On weekends, we jump on a tram and explore the city. Gothenburg is beautiful and clean and peaceful, with lots of culture and events for babies. My parents were happy to have a month in Sweden looking after the baby and decorating the apartment while I was in the office. My son turns 1 just before Christmas, and when I go back to work in January, he'll be old enough for preschool. I'm working from home for the rest of the year. Sam's currently backpacking in Indonesia. We FaceTime occasionally. Not every week, but apparently the signal over there can be spotty. When Sam's not available, we FaceTime with her mum. Reading my previous posts today makes me cringe. They were written in a deep depression that I wasn't even aware of until I was on the other side of it. Sam was my first real relationship. Before we met, my life was miserable. After we got together, my life was perfect for a while, or at least so much better it seemed perfect. I didn't want and wasn't expecting to break up. I assumed my only 2 options were being with Sam or going back to my terrible single life. And when we first broke up and I moved back in with my parents, it seemed like I was right. I kind of forgot about the bad times and just remembered that perfect first year when we were a new couple. I was miserable and desperately wanted her back. Then suddenly she was back and pregnant with my baby. Even after the whole Tom thing, I thought this was a chance to reset our relationship, start fresh, and be happy again. I can now see that I put her on a pedestal throughout our relationship. We were one of those couples who never argued as I just let her walk all over me and go along with whatever she wanted. I don't have any real-life friends and was always terrified of losing her. Ironically, this walking on eggshells was a big part of why our marriage collapsed in the first place. I let her get away with murder out of fear of being alone. I'm seeing a new therapist and working through the damage these last few years have done. I feel a lot of guilt and regret, but then I look at my son and feel guilty for being regretful. It's a mess, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. I've started taking Swedish lessons, and I'm going to sign up for ice hockey in the new year. I played roller hockey in my youth, to hopefully make some friends. The woman whose maternity leave I'm covering might not be coming back, so it's possible I'll be able to stay here more than a year. Maybe permanently. I want to thank everyone who gave me advice over the years. And all the people who called me a doormat or an idiot or hopelessly naive. You were right. Reading back through the thousands of comments over the last few months has actually helped me move forward, so thank you. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I'm so glad to hear you're doing better. I remember your posts, and seeing that you were moving back in with her was such a this is going to go so poorly moment. I'm sorry things did go to hell so badly, but I'm glad you and your little man are in a better situation. Commenter 2. I hope Op finds a new, relaxed life in Sweden. His previous posts were so jarring. It's insane how violating it would feel to be forced to become a parent when your ex gets her hands on the last thing that would forcefully thrust her back into your life after divorce proceedings started. What a horrible day to forget to withdraw consent immediately from an IVF clinic. It might not be SA, but it's pretty up there in terms of how traumatic such a revelation would be. I get why he was unraveling mentally so much after this. Now he can't ever fully shield himself from her, because they're tied together by the shared child until death. It's hard to be rational when you feel like your choices were taken from you. This whole saga is just sad, and I hope he can build something that feels more stable and loving in his new environment and be a good dad to his child. Commenter 3. Sam was desperate to be a mom, and then ran away. I truly hope she travels forever and leaves Op alone. Having a son is probably the best thing for Op, he seems to love being a dad. Selfish Sam will probably want to disrupt his peace in a few years, demand to get back together. Story 2. My fiancé is concerned about another girl I'm working with. Posted by you/thrower2ndtree. My 26M fiancé, 24F, wanted to talk to me a couple of nights ago about something that's been on her mind for a while, but something that she wasn't sure how to express. She was nervous about coming off wrong, to use her words, and she said that she was afraid that bringing it up would ruin our relationship. I did my best to promise her that nothing she said could do that, so she told me what it was, and I'm trying to find the best way to handle it. We have known each other going back to high school, and we have been dating for the past 3 years. We both recently graduated and wanted to wait until we did before we talked about marriage. After we did, we both began looking for places, and I proposed to her with a ring that she pointed out to me. When she told me what she did, she said that she felt guilty for not saying it before telling me to buy the ring, and even though I promised her that nothing she said could change how I feel about her, she still feels bad after we talked last night. I wanted to come here and ask for advice on the situation. When I was in college, I fell in love with circus arts on the side at a place that offered it. After trying a trial class, I ended up taking classes there for my first college semester, going on 4+ years. I mostly specialize in handstand balancing and partner acrobatics, but this is the thing that she was slightly concerned about. In the partner acrobatics class/community that I've been a part of for the past few years, the instructors would assign partners based on similar skill levels in the group. I have been working with another girl similar to my skill level. My fiancé knows this and has even attended a few of our recitals. Not to mention she's also tried a few classes herself, but felt that it would be a long time until she became decent, and she didn't feel like putting a lot of hours into it, which is totally fine. We all have different passions, and I try to support hers like she tried to support mine by attending our recitals over the past few years. However, when we talked, she said that she didn't want to come off as if she was jealous, and she made sure to emphasize that numerous times, but she said that she had doubts about how closely we work together, and specifically how we're usually holding or catapulting each other up into different balances and work very closely to each other, along with the time we've spent together to refine our skills for performances and such. She just wanted to ask, as it's been on her mind for a while, but she felt bad for not stating her concern months before. I did my best to tell her that I love her and appreciate her concern and for telling me too, since I know she could have kept it inside and led to future problems by never voicing it, problems I would never know about in all likelihood. However, I also tried my best to emphasize that while we worked closely together to refine our skills, we were not in any romantic relationship whatsoever, despite the fact that my partner isn't in a relationship. I know how it can look when we're balancing and stunning together in close proximity, but my partner also knows that I'm in a relationship, and I personally see it similar to when dancers work with other dancers, or actors and actresses in a movie or play may have relations that don't translate off of the screen and are strictly professional. However, I told her that if she prefers that I stop doing acrobatics with her, I'd be more than willing to do that, as we're especially about to get married. But she began to feel guilty and said that she didn't want to waste all the money from our last 4 years of working together, along with how we make some money on the side performing at gigs that our studio often provides. She began to feel guilty for bringing it up and causing a rift between me and my partner, which has not happened at all. I want to show her that I appreciate her telling me her concern and that I'm willing to do my best to erase any concerns she may have, especially as we're about to get married in the near future. I'm happy that we could have a conversation about it. However, she just feels concerned and guilty for bringing it up, and I wanted to ask how I should best go about everything from here on, and here's what I mean. I'm more than willing to stop partner acrobatics as we're about to get married by all means, but I'm also trying to think of how I would explain that to my partner, without going into all of the details, but keeping it professional. I'm also trying to be respectful and grateful that my fiancée brought it to my attention by doing whatever she feels most comfortable with. But if I quit, she'll probably feel guilty, like she said probably 100 times, and she is my priority. I wanted to ask for advice on how to move forward and what choice would be the best one to make, perhaps even from others who are actors, dancers, and have relationships aside from working with a partner in a professional field. Any advice is appreciated, and thanks for reading all of that. Update 1 month 2 weeks later. Editor's note, Op recapped his previous post here, fast forwarding to the new information. Some of the advice that I received last time really gave me a different perspective that I didn't have. Someone said that while quitting acrobatics would be an option, it could do more harm than good in the long run because it would set a precedent on how male/female relationships outside of your marriage would be handled in the future, and that rather than removing temptation, it could be better to learn how to establish mutual trust, along with how it's not good to give up hobbies we enjoy, which may make me or us resent each other later. Someone else also recommended setting strict boundaries or guidelines and making them clear to my fiancée the next time we talked, and I tried my best to do so. When we talked again, I told her that I wouldn't be hanging out with my partner outside of training and that she is welcome to drop by unannounced, like someone also recommended. I thanked her for bringing it to my attention again and assured her that I'm willing to do what's best for both of us. I also told her that if that didn't work and quitting down the line would just be easier, I'd be fine with that too. But she said that she didn't want me to quit and that she admired the effort we put in and didn't want to ruin that at all. She said that she was also thinking about it a lot more too, and that she thought of some things she didn't say when we last talked. She clarified that she was wrongfully jealous of the bond that my partner and I shared, specifically how much she admired the trust we had and stuff like that. She also told me when she first began feeling what she voiced last time, and it was after someone commented on our video performance some time back and thought that my partner was my girlfriend. It was a few years ago before some people knew we were dating, since it was a family friend who said it, and she expressed that it did hurt her feelings. I told her that I had no issue removing the video from a few years ago off of my socials. She felt really bad about not saying anything for so long, but she felt for a while that she might lose me over her and that she considered herself to be less than her too. She wished there was something we could do together to strengthen our bond, since she wishes she could perform with me but didn't want to personally commit to acrobatics after a few sessions. She doesn't know what that bonding thing could be yet, and it's something we're trying to brainstorm at the moment in the midst of the wedding planning. I wanted to ask for suggestions on things we could do and potential ways to make her feel better or more confident about herself when she sometimes has a tendency to doubt herself for many things. Hopefully, a bonding activity can change that, since this could be the resolution she was looking for. Second update 1 year later. I went back and forth on writing this a few times, but it's been hard when I thought things were getting better, but we never ended up getting married. In my first post, my fiancée said she wanted to talk to me for some time, but was afraid of coming off wrong and feared it could ruin our relationship. Editor's note, Op recapped his previous post here, fast forwarding to the new information. One of the best pieces of advice I received was to use the situation as a precedent for how male/female relationships would be handled in the future, as a means to build trust going into our marriage, a better alternative than quitting, which could lead to resentment. So when we talked again, I offered to have her drop by unannounced, as well as offering to have her meet my partner too. She said she didn't need to drop by and that she still felt guilty for bringing it up in the first place, but I told her that it would only make us stronger and that we could try a new hobby together too. She said that she was open to it, and after my update post, I felt things were looking up. She came to one of our training sessions. My partner and I rent studio time to train together outside of group classes for specific choreography routines, and she met my partner formally and watched the entire session. Afterward, she was open to the three of us grabbing lunch since they didn't get to talk much at the studio, and they seemed to hit it off well. However, not long after, she told me that her parents created most of her doubts about my partner and me being together, along with sending the video of our performance to her relatives to convince her that it looked like more going on between us when there wasn't. This was the first that I learned about it, as her parents never brought their concern to me, but I told her that I didn't look at her differently because of her parents, because I wasn't marrying them. But she said she felt embarrassed and that her parents said some things that really hurt her, along with spreading them to relatives too, and she was really emotional when she said all of this too. In the aftermath of learning about my hobby and seeing the performance video, they told her that they wouldn't support our marriage anymore unless I quit. But she made sure to emphasize that her initial conversation was not about me quitting, but rather feeling insecure about herself and her body compared to my acro partner. I told her I didn't care what her parents thought despite their threat to not attend or want their wedding funds back, that I'd happily give so that we'd owe nothing to them, but that I also understood how harsh they were being after they called her derogatory names, Re being one, in addition to spreading gossip to both relatives and church. She had received calls and messages from all three sides, and they began to make her depressed too. I asked if she wanted to talk to someone about it, perhaps even together if that made it easier, but she said she wanted space not because of me but because of her parents' threats to not talk to her anymore on top of everything else. I wanted to stay together with her through the process, but she insisted on doing it alone and just was really depressed. So, we took a break that I thought would be brief, but she stopped responding almost entirely. I even considered going over to see her after some time, but my dad said that was a bad idea. On the bright side, Erin formally cancelled with our wedding planner, which honestly made my heart sink, although I appreciate her doing it the right way instead of rushing into it. Her parents were always fine with me up until the video, I guess, but refused to answer any calls or messages I gave them before Erin left, to talk to them together, and strictly stuck to gossiping about me. I even offered to go over, but they texted Erin that I couldn't and to stop bugging them. I've been unwilling to practice acro much too, taking a break for a time as things have been tough, but my partner has been understanding and said she hopes I come back to class, and I'm thinking about it to get active again. After my first initial messages to Erin, I took breaks to give her space for a few weeks before trying again, but there has been no response. My dad said it's tough for people to break away from their parents and make big decisions sometimes too. Her parents also called me some derogatory names too in a 180 since the video. So, I'm just trying to take things day by day, but if there's anything I'll ask for, it's how to move on and get active again because it's been tough and some days especially. Maybe going back to class would be a start, but I'm just hoping to have the strength to do so soon because it's been hard to do much of late. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Wow man, that's sad. For her to prioritize her family's opinions over yours must have come as a real blow to you. I hope you are recovering from the lack of courage on her part. I can't imagine the pressure she was under, but also, this may have been indicative of the way your relationship was going to be in the future. Baby's name? Family decides. Future home choices? Family decides. Financial decisions? Family decides. Not directly maybe, but if the core choice of whether to be with you or not is under question because of some family gossip, then every other choice you make as partners could possibly have been open to pressure and manipulation. On the whole, and hard as it may be to believe now, this might have been a lucky escape for you. No matter how respectful and open she was, she chose them instead of you, and I fear that might have been a constant. Ops response. From what I know, she's staying with a friend, and while it feels like that sometimes, I'm also not sure given the other things/messages she's shown me. From spreading false rumors about me and my partner to their church, relatives, and her social media, she said she felt embarrassed and even scared after they threatened to disown her and demand money back too, but not because of the threat to disown. Mostly, it was because of the sensitive stuff they threatened to post about her online. I can't say for sure that she's gone back to them, as I saw some of the texts and the arguments they had on her phone and the derogatory names. One of her friends said that she's just relying on her best friend as her only support and not necessarily with her parents at all because of the nature of their threats. Another aspect that makes me unsure was her purity past she mentioned when talking about her bodily guilt when comparing herself to my acro partner, so I feel it's hard to know for sure. Understandably, I feel it's best that it happened before the wedding, and I'm thankful that it wasn't an ugly cancellation. A lot of it screamed being threatened with personal stuff being posted online that she wanted to face alone instead of together, when I wanted to support her through it and help her get past them. Commenter 2. Sorry you're going through this, and that she did too. I'm a Christian, but I'll tell you these people are disgusting. No one should be shamed for doing what art form they love. It's people like them that completely radicalize and misinterpret what our religion is supposed to be about. Which is love. Sorry they did this to you. They've clearly shamed and demoralized her for her entire life and made her think that human bodies are horrible instead of beautiful. I can see how it would be extremely difficult for her to break from that mindset after all those years. I hope you get back to your dance and find joy and peace. Commenter 3. I wonder if there was some homophobia in the parents too, because of acrobatics. Commenter 4. I think so. The 180 turn from the parents was probably them changing from calling him a cheater, to calling him gay for doing acrobatics. Story 3.
I refused to give free legal advice to my friend and her boyfriend went nuts. Posted by you/lawyer4crazies. Just wanting some perspective on this, throw away for the obvious reasons. Bit of background info: Julie, 27F, is a good friend from school. Me, 27F, and her used to be close but have drifted apart and don't see each other as much as we used to. John, 32M, is her boyfriend. We used to be close but he has been cold towards me recently. They have both opened up a business, and I am a lawyer at a decent-sized firm. A few days ago I get a text from my good friend Julie out of the blue wanting to meet up. I was thrilled because Julie has bailed the last couple of times I have organized things. We meet up, but the whole time Julie keeps fishing for free legal advice about her business, which I politely refused. I refused for many reasons. She sought advice in an area of law I have minimal experience in. It goes against the conditions of my practicing license. What she wanted me to do would take up most of my limited free time, and in my jurisdiction there are rules and lots of warnings against giving free legal advice to friends and family. It has the potential to ruin my career, a career which I have just begun. I also don't want to mix my professional and personal life. The area of law I practice in is emotionally draining and intensive. I love it, but for the purposes of self-preservation, I want my spare time to be work-free. While I am more than happy to lend a sympathetic ear to friends, I find it a bit much to continuously put on my lawyer hat and provide solutions, opinions, and dish out free legal advice to everyone that asks. It's not a nice feeling to know you are being taken advantage of. I politely refused Julie and told her that I really wasn't comfortable giving away free legal advice, but if she wanted recommendations, I would gladly provide her with a list of capable lawyers. She said it was okay, and we had a meaningful chat. It was really pleasant to be able to speak to her again. Last night I was at a catch-up dinner with a couple of friends and our significant others. Julie and John happened to be there and were giving me the cold shoulder. I ignored it for most of the night, until we took our seats at the table. John started making all these snide remarks about lawyers, the usual stereotypes about lawyers. I laughed it off, as did everyone else. However, things took a turn for the worse, and his comments got oh so nasty and personal. He said horrible things like I must be sleeping my way to the top, that I must have connections to have gotten my job, that I am unethical/lack moral virtue like all lawyers, that I am greedy, and the icing on the cake, you must not be a good lawyer because you were unable to help us with our simple legal problem. I was pretty pissed off because who the F does something like this over a dinner? It was horrible, awkward, and just mean. I was mortified and didn't know what to say or do. I felt so small. I ended up excusing myself from the table to go cry. Come back, evidently look like I have been crying, and now John is pissed, saying that I can't take a joke or have no sense of humor. Wake up in the morning being bombarded with text messages from John and Julie about how I am horrible, how I made them look bad, what? And how this would all have been avoided if I just helped them in the first place. I responded and said if I ever was going to help them, they've blown their chances based on how they have acted. John has lost the plot and has been sending me menacing messages and has threatened to ruin me. Reddit, how the hell do I handle this? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I would wash my hands of these friends if I were you. You have every right in the world to refuse to have your free time infiltrated by those close to you digging for legal advice. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't most lawyers offer free consultations? Couldn't they have just as easily made a proper appointment with you during your office hours? Hold your ground. If they wanted to shed light on this whole thing to ruin you, they would end up humiliated, and you would receive a pat on the back from your employers for 1, being loyal to their firm, and 2, being loyal and respectful to yourself. What you do is worth something, and people who come around only when they want something aren't worth gifting it to for free. If you are worried, I would bring this situation to a seasoned higher up at the firm. Sorry if I'm a little all over the place. I'm irritated for you. And a little under the weather. Ops response. Thanks so much for this. It's made me feel a bit better. What annoyed me the most is how they made me out to be this super selfish, greedy jerk that doesn't give a second thought about my friends. It is offensive because I am nothing like that and have done so much for them in the past. Hell, the only reason why John is living in my country is because I wrote an amazing stat deck about him and his relationship. What they want me to do is effing time consuming, and as I said, out of my area of expertise. I don't want to finish my exhausting, draining day of solving other people's problems, to be bogged down in researching and solving the problems of someone ungrateful. I guess most of all I am pissed off because I didn't think that this would end a friendship. Normally, the relationship ends after you dish out free legal advice, not before. Commenter 2. Oh man, that John guy sounds horrible and ungrateful for what you did for him in the past. There is a saying in Spanish my mom would say about people who take advantage, which would translate to you give them a hand and they take your whole arm. I suggest keeping these texts, like everyone else is saying, and reporting him to the cops. He definitely needs to be put in his place. Commenter 3. Just curious, did anyone else at that dinner mention what went down? I have a hard time believing any normal or healthy people wouldn't have said something. Ops response. I said to someone else, they were all shocked. Julie and John are the golden couple that everyone looks up to. Julie has talked John up to the point where he is untouchable and the standard to judge everyone else's significant other too. I've got a whole heap of messages from my friends asking me how I am. It was just an awkward and embarrassing situation, no one knew how to handle it, myself included. Commenter 4. Julie and John are the golden couple that everyone looks up to. Julie has talked John up to the point where he is untouchable, and the standard to judge everyone else's significant other too. Well, they just ruined that. Everyone in your friend group is going to see them for who they are now. Please don't think this is any reflection on you. These two people are just petty and awful, and now everyone knows it. Update 17 days later. So first things first, thank you so much to everyone that responded. I'm surprised that my post gained the amount of attention that it did. I honestly can't express how thankful I am to all the private messages I got expressing concern. It's nice to know that there are some really awesome people out there that care enough to listen and help me in my time of need. In the original post, I expressed concern about John sending me really nasty text messages. I know a lot of people were telling me that I should go to the police and make a report. In the end, I decided not to. Long story short, John is not a citizen of my country and is actually going to an interview in the next coming weeks, along with Julie, to cement his status as a permanent resident of my country. Part of this process is basically having a squeaky clean record and the full and frank disclosure of criminal activity or antisocial behavior. Since I am a character reference that I provided in a non-legal capacity, and wrote a really nice letter for John, this was before all the drama, it wouldn't look good for him. I have no interest in ruining both his and Julie's life, no matter how terrible, rude, or mean they are, so I didn't want to make a report. However, I sent one text message to both John and Julie which basically said that if he did not stop harassing me, then I would have no choice but to go to the police and file a formal report. I have kept copies of these text messages if I need to and have blocked their numbers and have gone into a social media lockdown. In regards to my professional concerns, every Monday, I have a standing appointment with my supervising solicitor to debrief about work and any problems that arise from work. As I mentioned in the original thread, I practice in family law and deal with a lot of at-risk and vulnerable kids, most of whom are victims of abuse, so the appointment goes beyond the realm of legal work. I discussed what happened with John and Julie and asked for her professional opinion. She was actually shocked with the whole situation, had to show her the text to prove it actually happened. She basically said that there is no way in the world that John and Julie could get me into trouble, because I didn't do anything wrong. She also said that because she knows how hard I work and how many hours I put in at work, coupled with my known distaste of corporate/commercial law, she has no qualms in backing me up in the unlikely event that Julie and John try to cause me professional dramas. She also advised me to call the Bar Association to preempt any problems, but the Bar Association said that I did the right thing and that unless they have legitimate evidence that proves that I have given them any advice or have done anything wrong, then I am in the clear. So it looks as though I am all good on that front. A very good friend of mine that was at the dinner where John exploded has sort of been talking to Julie and John and letting me know what was going on. My friend, Jane, told me that John wanted to make a formal complaint/start something. She wasn't too sure of the exact details, but she shot him down and said that is no way appropriate, acceptable or ethical and that she, or our circle of friends, would want anything to do with either John or Julie. After this, Jane has told me that she wants nothing to do with either of them, and listed off the number of times I have been there for both of them, and how stupid they are being. Jane also told me that the reason why no one intervened at the dinner party was because no one knew what to say. John has always presented himself as being the nice guy and the perfect boyfriend. His behavior was completely left field and out of character, that people genuinely didn't know how to react. Julie has always spoken so highly about John, how perfect he is, how lucky she is to have him and how we all need to find our John. It sort of brought to light a few things about him and their relationship, a few odd things, that no one could put their finger on. No one's relationship is as perfect as John and Julie. Long story short, it made a lot of people reconsider how they thought about them both. Someone in the original post pointed out that their outburst and insistence for help is probably symptomatic of a bigger problem. Whoever said that was correct. Around a year ago, both Julie and John bought into a business. I don't know the specific details, but at the time, John and Julie approached me and asked for some legal advice, which I declined. I was in my final semester of law school, and because they didn't want to pay for a lawyer to draw up contracts or look over things. At that time, John was really dismissive of paying for legal advice and said that he was more than capable of handling it himself. Turns out he did a really terrible job. They are losing money, owe a lot of people money, angered a lot of people, and both he and Julie have generally been screwed over by a contract in place. This is what Jane has told me. I feel bad for them, I really do, but there is literally nothing I can do. Yeah, I am a lawyer, but as I have stated time and time again, it is not in an area of law I practice in. It's like asking a cardiologist to perform a lobotomy. My expertise is family law. While I have a rudimentary knowledge of business law or corporate law, the kind of advice they need is beyond the scope of anything I can help them with. After much thought though, even if I had the ability, I don't know if I would want to. The sense of entitlement they have and the flagrant disrespect they have both shown to me has really upset me. While John has been a monumental douche, what really stings the most is Julie. She was meant to be an old friend, but it just really effing hurts. I mean, imagine trying over and over again to meet up with a friend, but they continuously bail on you. Then out of the blue they meet up with you. But instead of exchanging pleasantries, nope, I didn't even get a token how are you going, a pile of papers gets thrust in your hands, dozens of rapid-fire questions about the law, demands to call people for them, requests to write carefully crafted letters in your name on your office stationery, contracts and documents to look over. F. That. Noise. I don't want to finish work, only to be inundated with more work. I know that I have been used, but what's worse is the disrespect, the whole lawyer jokes that were barely disguised attacks on me, the thought process that oh she'll do a whole heap of work for us, just because. How someone can even get into that mindset astonishes me. Julie hasn't bothered to speak to me, and I have no intention to speak to her. Jane has said that Julie doesn't really show any remorse, and while she understands my reluctance to not get involved, thinks that I should be doing more. F her, and F doing more. I've done so much for her and John. I've written statements to help his visa application, I have recommended customers to their store, I have helped them move from home to home, I have given them a list of lawyers to contact in regards to their situation, I've been there when Julie's grandfather passed away. More must mean doing what they want for them. It has been a hard, harsh lesson, but the friend I thought I had never really was a friend. /relevant comments. Commenter. From the distance of the internet, I suggest rescinding your recommendation letter. Although you did it as a part of your personal relationship, it carries more weight than a letter from a non-professional. The ethical and other promises and declarations you made upon becoming legal to practice both give your recommendation more weight, and to maintain those standards, you should also rescind a declaration you can no longer honestly make. Do you really want this guy, who's bizarre, stalkerish, and potentially abusive, assuming that is the funny feeling you're getting from their relationship, behavior scares you, to become a legal citizen? He knows he's supposed to behave well while on a visa. Can you imagine how he'll behave once he's legal? Actions have consequences. Don't protect him from his due consequences. Ops response. I wish I could, but unfortunately, that time has passed. I wrote the letter over a year ago, when I was not a practicing solicitor and still a law student. It is not linked to me professionally. It was done, as is stated on the letter, in the context of a friend who has known the couple for an extended period of time. It was essentially a letter that spoke, in part, about John's character, who at the time I thought was a standout guy, and the legitimacy of John and Julie's relationship, which I still think is legit, no legal jargon. I wouldn't even know how to go about rescinding the letter, because as far as I am aware, the part of that process that I was involved in has long passed. Commenter 2. John is not a citizen of my country and is actually going to an interview in the next coming weeks, along with Julie, to cement his status as a permanent resident of my country. Part of this process is basically having a squeaky clean record and the full and frank disclosure of criminal activity or antisocial behavior. I predict after the 2 years, or whatever it is, that he needs to be permanent, he's going to dump your friend. I've seen this a few times, and his behavior through all this seems to me to be very deceptive. Everything he is doing appears to be nice right now, except for when things get bad, and then he shows his true self. All of this is a big warning sign, a giant red flag. Ops response. Unfortunately, I feel the same way too. They got together really quickly, and Julie got swept up in it all. All my friends felt that way at the beginning, but John wooed and charmed us all, and did not even begin the visa process until 2 years or so into the relationship, so we all were fine helping them out.
Story 4.
My boyfriend dumped me and kicked me out after his friend lied that I cheated, and now that he found out the truth, he wants to speak to me. Posted by you/tomorrow maybe today. I, 26F, was with my ex-boyfriend, 26M, for 4 years. We moved in after 2 years of dating and were genuinely happy. I genuinely thought that I was going to marry him one day. I even moved to a different country to stay with him when his job relocated him to Europe. Throughout our relationship, I noticed that one of his girlfriends, 25F, didn't really like me. I've tried many times to befriend her, but I gave up after constantly being on the receiving end of her cold shoulder and snarky remarks. Ex knew about this and told me that she didn't have that many girlfriends and probably didn't know how to be friends with another woman. She's the only woman in their clique of 7 guys, who were all lovely to me. On the 31st of December 2019, both of us attended a party to celebrate New Year's. I don't drink, so I was completely sober. Ex got completely smashed. The next afternoon, I woke up to my stuff packed and him telling me that we were done and that I had to move out. I was completely blindsided and so confused. He accused me of cheating on him. I would never do that. I think it's such a terrible thing to do. I remember crying so hard and telling him that I did no such thing, but he still kicked me out. My best friend and her boyfriend, without hesitation, opened up their home to me and told me that I was welcome to stay. Bless their hearts. They're the sweetest couple ever. During that dark period of time, I was trying to process everything. I was honestly so depressed. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I felt like a zombie, like I was barely existing. I told my family what had happened, and they were very upset for me and wanted me to fly back home. They live in a different country, and I didn't want to travel during a pandemic and potentially put them at risk of catching COVID. While this was happening, all of our mutual friends and his family members turned against me, choosing to believe that I was a cheater and completely cutting me off in support of my ex. They posted shady stuff about me online, calling me a hoe and a cheater. Rumors started to spread, and it affected me so much that I deleted all social media and blocked all of them everywhere. I just wanted to disappear. As time went on, I was one day introduced to one of my best friend's friends. He was really sweet and kind. We slowly became friends, started chatting, and video calling. Fast forward to June, and I feel myself slowly falling in love with him. He doesn't believe what so many people say about me being a cheater and whatnot. He asks me out on a proper virtual date, and I agree. We started dating, and I'm so happy. I feel like he is the light at the end of my tunnel. Well, yesterday, someone from my ex's clique leaked a video on Instagram where ex's girlfriend was boasting of how she lied and came up with this plan to break ex and me up. She apparently paid someone to lie to my ex and tell him that I seduced him at the New Year's party and slept with him. Once that came out, a lot of my ex's friends and family members have been trying to contact me. They tried contacting my best friend, who basically told them to F off. My ex came to the house and was begging for me to speak to him. It was really dramatic, lol. I feel like I don't owe them any of my time at all and just want them to leave me alone. However, my parents think that it's a little sad that ex is outside the house crying and begging to speak to me. They think that maybe I should give him a chance to speak to me. I feel really conflicted. I feel like I'm being too harsh on him and his group of friends. Should I establish a line of communication? What should I do? /relevant comments. Commenter. I wouldn't waste my time if I were in your position. He chose to not hear your side, and now he expects you to give him the consideration he should have given you at the beginning of the year? Like, I understand it's horrible that his friend manipulated everyone and even paid a stranger to get it done, but that doesn't even explain why he wouldn't hear what you had to say. And then for his friends to so easily turn on you, which, to a limit, I understand. We all want to defend our friends when people do treat them horribly, and attack your reputation the way they did is so juvenile and uncalled for. What is this? Middle school? They need a grip on reality. I hate to be so blunt, but if this guy truly loved and cared about you, he would have at least listened to what you had to say. Stay moving on. You deserve better. Commenter 2. Hold firm. He was presented with 2 different versions of events, and he rejected yours without even a discussion, without seeming to even consider the possibility that you were truthful. That wasn't right, not for a serious partner of 4 years. I get you're feeling conflicted, and I would have a bit of sympathy for a person being played that badly, but he was also an active and willing participant in upending your life, and in doing it so callously. You don't owe him the courtesy of even a discussion, when he didn't allow you that courtesy before packing your bags. To your parents, that's natural to weigh in, but I tell them you understand their perspective, will make up your own mind on the matter, and don't want to discuss the topic with them again. Commenter 3. I want to add that I do understand how rare it would be for a random person to outright lie about having sex with your partner. But, especially considering there was a major party the night before, if someone told me they had hooked up with my girlfriend and she had no idea what I was talking about when I confronted her, I would be concerned she had been drugged and SA'd. The fact you decided to kick her out before she had even woken up is insane. Update 2 days later. Hello, I'm back with an update. But before that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who left nice comments. A few of y'all were telling me to kill myself. I'm disappointed but not surprised. Anyway, for someone who has had a bad relationship with social media, it really touched my heart to have so many strangers say nice things to me for a change. I just wanted to let you know that I really appreciate it. Also, the post received multiple awards. Thank you for those. So many people have also messaged me telling me that this has happened to them before, and I'm trying to reply to all the messages as quickly as I can. Please be patient with me. My ex returned a few hours later that day to try to speak to me again, so I decided to meet him at a cafe nearby. I told him he had 30 minutes to say what he wanted to, and then I would leave, regardless of whether he said all that he wanted to or not. I learned that he was cheating on me with a girlfriend, and they started seeing each other 5 to 6 months before our relationship ended. His whole clique knew about it, and since the majority of them worked in the same building, they could cover and vouch for the two of them whenever they were together. He didn't know who to choose out of the two of us, as he said that he really loved me, but liked her. She was also saying horrible things about me to him all the time, poisoning his mind, which was why he was so quick to believe the boy and her. As for the paying a boy to lie to him part, he told me he practically screamed at her for an explanation of the videos, and she broke down crying and told him everything. At the party, she paid a boy from uni. I don't know where she found this boy and how he got into the party, $200 and 2 bottles of vodka for him to lie to my ex. Apparently, she kept saying to him, "See, I told you she's cheating. He's admitting it to you." He was so upset and didn't know what to do. She told him that she'll help him pack my crap so he could finally kick that hoe out. They both decided to just behave as though nothing had happened, so I would be so surprised when he kicked me out. According to him, he wanted me to feel the same amount of betrayal he felt. She had a spare key to our apartment that I didn't know about, so she snuck in when we were sleeping, packed my stuff into garbage bags, and snuck out by the time he woke up. We turned our extra room into a walk-in closet, which is how I think that was even possible because I didn't hear any noise at all. I'm a heavy sleeper too, which could explain this, but I still feel like something's off about this. Note, she moved in the very next day. He then proceeds to say that he doesn't want her anymore, and he wants to get back together. He says that we can move away and start over. He'll do anything I want and go anywhere I want to. He'll spend the rest of his life doing whatever it takes for me to love him again. Once he was done, I told him what you guys have been saying in the comments. He sure has the audacity to show his face after everything he has done to me. I chose to forgive him and am at peace with myself, but he will have to live with what he has done and the aftermath of everything for a really long time. This is especially so with many people knowing the truth. I told him I didn't love him anymore and want nothing to do with him, his family, or friends anymore. As far as I am concerned, they're all dead to me. I told him to never contact me again because I'm moving on with my life, and I'm finally happy. He started crying a little, and I left. Since the video on Instagram spread to all of his friends and family members, the crazy girlfriend sent me emails with words in all caps about how I've ruined her life. She somehow thinks I'm responsible for the spread of the videos. So I sent the videos, screenshots of the emails, and a short explanation of everything to her bosses and her family members. Hope they have a field day with that. As for my parents, they really loved him a lot and would constantly ask us when we were getting married when we were together. That's why they wanted me to give him another chance and hear him out. I reiterated to them everything that he did to me and even showed them the videos, only for me to get a response of, "Well, men cheat, and he loved you so he didn't break up with you. It's okay, you guys can work through this." I then proceeded to ask them if my dad is cheating on my mom and if my mom just accepts if my dad sleeps around because that thought process was absolutely outrageous. I got yelled at for being rude, so I told them that I would be going no contact for the next few months. Well, that's all the updates I have so far. I'm glad that I'm finally happy and will continue living my peaceful life with my friends and my boyfriend. Hope you all stay safe during this pandemic. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Wow. Just wow. Yeah, happy you got away. They are both trash. And to be honest, your ex and his friend/side chick deserve each other. Good luck to him handling her, as she clearly has crazy girlfriend issues, so that's his problem now. Same goes for those so-called friends. Any more messages she tries to send you, save them in case it escalates to something more criminal or if you need to file a cease and desist with her. Slapping her with legal repercussions should be a healthy dose of reality that there are consequences to her actions. I'm sorry your parents reacted the way they did, but good for you on making a mature decision. As for the Redditor posting awful messages to you, just press that report and ban button to help clean out those trolls. Commenter 2. Wait, he had been having an ongoing affair for 5 to 6 months. Yet at the first insinuation that you may have cheated, he thought it was cool to kick you out? He thought that by admitting to cheating, he would have a better chance of getting back together? Did you ask him if Crazy never paid some kid to lie, Would he have ever come clean? Commenter 3. A lot of cheaters are actually like this. Like the stereotypical controlling boyfriend who feels and acts mortally wounded when his girlfriend is simply talking to a male friend, yet he is cheating on her the whole time. It's a pretty common scenario. Additional info from Op. Hello everybody. I posted an update, but I deleted it after a few people created accounts pretending to be my friend or family of my ex. That was weird. I think the update is somewhere floating in the comments. Thank you everyone for your kind messages and comments. I'm trying to reply to everyone slowly. It just kind of freaks me out to get messages telling me to kill myself, which to me is so unnecessary. I wish this was fake, but it's not. Also, girlfriend has lost her job and has said that she's going to deal with me. I've taken everything and gone to the police. I've also sent my friends all the evidence in case something bad happens. So there's that.